What's going on? You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast and Ujumbe means message. Yeah, this is something else. I tell you, this is the end of the school year. I am done. I'm done doing teacher stuff. I do apologize for that. But shout out to the fam. I am very excited to be here one more time. So yeah, this has been a journey, and I'm really excited about it. I got some good news at the end, so get ready for that. But now, let's get down to the business. The Vanishing Queen, Nefertiti, and the battle for Egypt's soul. Yep, that's where we at with it. Okay, shout out to Mama Louise. She wanted us to go into more detail about Queen Nefertiti and her impact. And it was more than political, y'all. It was more than politics. This thing became symbolic. This thing became good versus evil, almost order versus chaos, a whole lot. And I'm really grateful that you guys are on this journey with us. And shout out to the fam. Okay, greet everybody as you come in. Don't forget to hit the like button. And yeah, shout out. Okay, Miss Blue Aries. All right, greetings everyone. Greet everybody as you come in. The Vanishing Queen, Nefertiti, and the battle for Egypt's soul. Yeah. We had to take a little spin real quick, but let's get to it. So what's happening is today we're going to deal with the most captivating enigmas in world history. What happened to Queen Nefertiti after Akhenaten's death? Okay, this isn't just a tale of, say, royal disappearance. This is a story of power, rivalry, revolution, and erasure. We have learned that these people in Kemet, they got down differently. It wasn't just hotep all the time. It wasn't just happy-go-lucky all the time. They would put pen to paper and either religiously write you out or just straight up take you out. Yeah. Okay, Isu, okay. One Voice Africa, shout out to the fan. What's going on? Yeah, greet everybody. Thank you for coming. All right. Now, so yeah, they don't get it twisted. They weren't just praying in the temples, and the Kari Hebs and the priests were just going along to get along. They got active. All right. So moving into one of the most controversial periods, which is the 18th dynasty, more specifically the Amarna period in Egyptian history. So we're going to deal with this. The question is, who was Nefertiti really? Okay, who was she really? Of course, we understand she may have been a foreigner, a foreign-born beauty, a political mastermind, or Egypt's last great solar monarch. This is not just a physical thing. This is a metaphysical thing. Yeah, we're going to touch on the Kemetic science too, by the way, since y'all asked for it. Did Queen Tiye and Nefertiti represent two opposing visions of Egypt's future? And so, who truly held the power, in your opinion? All right, I'm going to ask, in the end, who held the power? Now, how did religious revolution shape and ultimately unravel the legacy of Nefertiti and Akhenaten? Because when you mention Nefertiti, you have to deal with her husband. That's what that is, right? Was Nefertiti erased by her enemies, or did she choose to vanish behind a new identity? That's the things I learned about it, because a few weeks ago we talked about how the names of Amun, or different phases, one of them is the hidden one. Did she choose to become the hidden one? Let's go. Now, so today, we're going to deal with the veil of origins, who was Nefertiti, a little bit. The Queen of the Sun, power beside the heretic king. Tiye versus Nefertiti. Yes. This is the century-old story between mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law. I don't care. I don't care if they got a crown or not. I don't care if they royal or not. They would get petty. Grant, the mother versus the son-in-law. That bro. All right. Yeah, it's one of those things where my son likes the macaroni and cheese cooked like this kind of thing. right? So, yeah, the rivalry between of the queens, factions of the court, power behind the throne, the vanishing queen, Neferneferuaten, Smenkhkare, and Erasure. And yeah, the eternal return, the afterlife of Nefertiti. Yeah, we're going to get into some comedic science. Since you guys have been asking for it, I think we're going to make an attempt to touch on something dealing with the esoteric, dealing with the symbolic, all right? And I'm checking roll at the end of class because I'm a veteran teacher. All right, let's get it. All right, hold on. Let me see. I think Mo, he has entered the chat. What's going on, Mo? What's going on? Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow. Greetings, everyone. What's going on, Mo? The veil of origins. Who was Nefertiti? Now, we've already established a lot of things that she's possibly not from Kemet, and she is from, or if she's not a foreigner, she's from a royal family, right? So that's a little bit about it, right? Nefertiti means the beautiful one has come, and as we broken it down before, remember her name Nefertiti is the beautiful one has come. It sounds like it may be. It sounds like it may refer or be reference to someone who have arrived from somewhere else. Yeah, beautiful one has come. Come from where? Okay, come from where? Where did she come from? And we touched on the fact that she may have came from Syria, and it was an arranged marriage, right? So, like and comment below. Let me know. Do you think she's a foreigner? I like to think so. Okay, like and comment. Just let me know. I like to think so mainly because of how the royalty in Kemet treated her. Number one. And number two, she was not buried with the royalty in Kemet. We don't know where she's at. All right, shout out to Love Child. She got them beats. Okay. And she said, I'm here. Don't mark me absent. Oh, yeah. It's about to be summertime. Hey, and this is gonna be great. All right. Now, so let's go. Now, Nefertiti, of course, the name means the beautiful one has come, and it may have a deeper phrase or deeper meaning, right? Was this an acknowledgement of a foreign origin, perhaps Mitanni or the Levant or the priestly line beyond the Nile? Some people like to assume that she came from a priestly group outside of the Nile Valley. Or was it a poetic declaration, a statement that beauty, divine presence, or cosmic balance had arrived in the court of Egypt? Finally, somebody, this thing that we have read about is now symbolic. Now it has manifest. It has become a person. Just like Smenkhkare, she, as we learned over time, she became the embodiment of the things that the priest was reading about. But when she got there, they didn't know how to deal with that. Was Nefertiti that too? Was she that? Right? Now, to the ancient Kemetic people, names were never arbitrary. Names meant something, right? Names meant power. They were living spells. There was knowledge carrying within them the soul's mission. So you just can't throw a name on something, right? We as a people got to get past that. We can't just slap a name on something or somebody. No, names mean something. You know why? Because in our custom, once mama gives us a name, there's another name that's given to us, right? Nicknames, right? Those names mean something, okay? Sometimes good, sometimes embarrassing, right? So names meant something, names meant power, right? And so in this light, the beautiful one has come may signify not a political union, but a descent of a spiritual archetype. The queen did not just enter the palace, she manifested, she arrived as if called by destiny, as if it was the time has come for another entity or another Neteru to show up. You know, y'all let me know. So check this out. So the great, yeah, her physical ain't African. She looked mixed. Yeah. She may have been, from somewhere else. She may have been somewhere else. All right. And so as she enters the historical record as the great royal wife of Amenhotep IV, later known as Akhenaten, but even in this title, she exceeds expectations. From the beginning, Nefertiti was not content with just being a ceremonial partner, but she wanted to be a part of what was going on. She became the visible counterpart in a spiritual revolution, a co-equal in transforming Egypt's worldview. She was at the helm of this, and that's why I think that some of the royalty in Egypt didn't like her. Not just the mama, but the royal, the priests of Amun got down. They didn't like that, right? She Mo would say she got a hold of Akhenaten and that was it, right? And so some scholars will believe that she played a vital role religiously as well as politically after a while. And I think politically that rubbed Queen Tiye, the Queen Mother, the wrong way, because she was a diplomat. She was the one that handled the paperwork. See what I'm saying? So that was important. Yeah. I mean, hey, she Nefertiti got a hold of Akhenaten, you understand me? And that was it. All right. Hey, that boy was done. He was cooked. All right, so get this. Some scholars suggest that Nefertiti may have been the daughter of I. Okay. Now keep in mind that he would later become the king of Egypt after King Tutankhamun died, and this is a little bit after that Nefertiti died. So I think that he was trying to finesse the situation, to finesse the royal court, and position himself in such a way to where if things go left, he will be right there. Okay, so I think I just have reason to believe that she was a foreigner because it was so many elements of a takeover that was happening in Kemet towards the end of the 18th dynasty. Okay, now he was a powerful court noble and a priest who later, of course, became Pharaoh himself. So her rise, I don't think it was accidental. I don't think her rise to power was accidental. It was engineered. It was designed as part of a broader dynastic and priestly agenda, and it was linked to some kind of secret theological school or theological mystery system. So I was known to be deeply embedded in the temple traditions. Okay, and Nefertiti may have been groomed from U2 for sacred kingship, but we don't know that. All right, now when Akhenaten began his monotheistic turn, rejecting the pantheons of the Neteru and in favor of Aten, the impersonal solar disk, it was Nefertiti who stood beside him, not as a passive support, but an active co-creation. So she developed this new theology. She came up with some of these ideas, and Akhenaten rolled with it. I still think that there was something wrong with this young man's mind. Okay, because according to a lot of Kemetic tradition, they already had the hidden one. They didn't need something else, right? So in the revolutionary capital of Akhenaten, or the horizon of Aten, Nefertiti took on the role that no queen had ever before her has done. She became like a high priest in that order. This was a new order. This was a new thing. Okay, they remember the Heliopolitan priests back when Neferu was in power. They was writing new ideas, but they already had rulership in power, so therefore they couldn't put those ideas in motion. Now we have royalty. We have people in power that's going to rewrite these books. Not the priests, but royalty. Totally different. So the architecture of this new city, Akhenaten, It was built with speed. It was built with some kind of intention. Remember, think about it. With Akhenaten, he left Thebes. He left Waset. He left his mother's house and built another one. And Waset was the seat of power, and Waset was the place where all the kings before him lived. Okay, so that was not only a religious separation, it was a physical and mental separation from his roots, from his origin. Okay, so this Akhenaten or Amarna was a metaphysical blueprint. Temples were was up there. It didn't have any dark sanctuaries. It was all open. It was all open air. The divine light was not hidden. It streamed directly into the holy places, the Holy of Holies, and so on. The Jesaru, the divine light was seen and represented everywhere. So this radical geometry, Nefertiti's image appeared over and over again. That family took a lot of selfies. They took Akhenaten and his family was always posing for the frame, right? So it wasn't just, she wasn't just seen as consort. She was seen as an officiant, as a representative, a warrior, and a conduit of this divine power. And speaking of that, we will get into that. I'm not done with that. The majestic gateway, we will come back to dealing with Hatshepsut's temple, because there's something about that. We'll get into it, because these temples, okay, these buildings weren't just structures. They were a physical representation or manifestation of the cosmic order, of the stars that was in the sky, as well as the Duat. All right. So, in a sense, dealing with Nefertiti, she's shown in reliefs and sides of buildings wearing the blue crown, which is only really reserved for the pharaoh. We talked about some of the crowns, and the blue one was the war crown, right? And that was only reserved for the Insitbiti. All right. In one famous depiction, she's basically, let me go back to it. She is shown as the same size and importance as Akhenaten in this picture. Okay. And so this statement shows that she is symbolically his equal, even though we've seen that in other representations, but in other royal families. But I think she was really trying to make a statement here. Okay. And so the Kemetic philosophy, duality is not just division, it is sacred pairing, just as the Nile had east and west. And actually it represented the Ka and the Ba. The cosmos require masculine and feminine principles in harmonic tension. You need both. You need a king and a queen. You need both. All right. Whenever a society is out of order, is because it is out of balance, one way or the other. Not just a society. You see it in Akhenaten's life. He is straight up out of balance. Okay. He's totally left field with it, and he forgot the affairs of Kemet. Nefertiti was more than a queen. She was the feminine principle of this Atenism in the flesh, and the Heteru embodiment of the celestial love, justice, and beauty, which is fine. But all the queens represented that. Every queen who was the lady of the north and south, Sematawi, they all represented Heteru at one point in time. So she wasn't the only one, but she was trying to be different, So even her 6 daughters, she had, and the thing is, remember, Akhenaten only had daughters with Nefertiti. There was no sons. Okay, so her 6 daughters was part of that cosmology, this new kind of order. These princesses appeared in temple art with their parents, making offerings to the Aten. But they were not just royal heirs. There was emblems of this continuity. Just like the Ennead, when we talked about the 9, these children were that modern version of that, or the ancient modern version, depends on how you want to spin it, right? The solar daughters of this new era. So some esoteric commentators or some people would like to believe that the royal family of the Amarna period was enacting some kind of metaphysical drama, a sacred imitation of the cosmic order. Akhenaten as divine mind, Nefertiti as the heart, and their daughters as creative emanations of the rays of the Aten. What do you think? Do you think this family represented that? Do you think this family represented the new Amarna era as far as cosmology? Okay, as far as symbolism. Okay, the Amarna art style characterized by its departure from traditional Egyptian Kemetic art styles. It often portrays Nefertiti as and Akhenaten nearly equal, as I said before. This was a choice. This was an ideological shift. This was a change. This changed a lot of things. Now, get this though. Hold on. Nefertiti's involvement in the religious transformation, spearheaded by Akhenaten, cannot be overstated. As the couple promoted the worship of the Aten, moving away from centuries and eons old of tradition, Nefertiti played a pivotal role in legitimizing and dismantling the old ways. She had a hand in that. Her participation in religious ceremonies and her depiction in the temple highlights her power and her status as a spiritual leader. Nefertiti she wasn't just a background figure, she was getting active. She wore the blue crown, and she was co-regent. Okay, so but by the way, if you're enjoying this content so far, like and subscribe so you don't miss anything, because we're about to get active, we're about to get involved this summer, and we're going to do a little bit more with the Kemetic science and everything. So, but really quick, I think I skipped somewhere. Hold on, y'all. And we'll get back to that. All right, now scholars like Dr. Joyce Taddesley argue that she was groomed to rule. Okay, her visibility eclipsed that of Akhenaten. Some scholars believe that, yeah, she started to become something different, something more powerful, even more powerful than Akhenaten. Okay, so her visibility eclipsed the sun, basically. And at that time, when traditional priesthoods were stripped of power, Nefertiti stood in her place as a living high priestess of the sun. Her 6 daughters were the living avatars of that Neteru. And now in Kemetic symbolism, the Aten represented the unseen divine presence made manifest through light. Nefertiti appearing as a human conduit of that light, enacted in cosmic role, similar to Heteru. Okay, the goddess of beauty, fertility, and the living sky. Some esoteric texts, like in the Edfu temple, align royal women with the eye of Ra, the solar force that both nurtures and destroys. We talked about the Heteru god. She can help you or she can break you. Yeah. Hold on. Yeah, she did a 360. She did 360. And Brother Mo says she was smart and caught on and actually learned what not to do, like her husband. But I don't know because there's some things that she started to get into. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, though. But Nefertiti was this eye of Ra, in a sense, embodied administrating divine order through new solar rites, the Amarna art style, which rejected rigid formalisms, and it went from that physical form, that rigid physical form, to metaphysical. Okay, it was no longer etched in stone. It was more fluid. It was flowing like the waters of Nun. Right, their posture, their gesture, their regalia, it was different. Some mystical interpretations propose that the queen functioned as a solar oracle, receiving and transmitting solar consciousness. Her famous crown, the flat top crown that we see all the time, may have symbolized not only a royal authority, but a sky disk itself, a humanized horizon, though which celestial rays were filtered. And, we'll get more into that. Now, so here it is. Queen of the Sun, power beside the heretic. I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm gonna keep doing it. Akhenaten, he was different, and I think that a lot of people at that time did not appreciate what he was doing, so therefore they tried to do a reset. Okay, the radiant glow of the Aten, where the sun's rays reached even the most sacred chambers, and that's where the drama unfolded. All right, but now before we get into that, though, we did. All right, we talked about the Veil of Origins. Now we're going to get into the Queen of the Sun. Tiye versus Nefertiti. Get ready for that. Factions in the court, the Vanishing Queen, and a little bit of comedic science. Let's get it. Now, Nefertiti, as the Queen of the Sun, in a sense, the radiant glow of the Aten, while everything was going on in the temple, everything was supposed to be Hotep, there was some drama that was unfolding, right? One, it was a spiritual and political battle that was happening in those temples. Okay, it's here that we got to turn our attention. Okay, so to understand the magnitude of this rivalry, we must first get understanding of who Queen Tiye was. Born, influential, from a nobleman, Yuya and his wife Tuya. Tiye was technically not a royal birth, but she rose to power herself. She became a diplomat, the queen mother, and everything. And she was the great royal wife of Amenhotep III. And she reigned in the height of Egypt's 18th dynasty. And she wasn't playing like that. All right. Now, Nefertiti's prominence, further emphasized by her unique blue crown, it showed divine authority, divine connection, royal authority, right? Now, her involvement in a religious transformation spearheaded by Akhenaten cannot be overstated. Okay, so this new idea that they had, this monotheistic faith, she was trying to dismantle the old ways and trying to reset something new, right? Now, I think I mentioned this before, but scholars like Dr. Joyce Tisley, she was a co-regent. Queen Nefertiti was groomed there, right? Now, what do you think, really quick, before we move on? What do you think? Did Nefertiti become the personification of Heteru? Like Smenkhkare and many others, did you think that she became the personification of Heteru, the Eye of Ra, or even the temple of itself? What do you think? Okay, now, ready for the rivalry? All right, hold on. Got a question. I got a question. Should we? Which one would you rather do? Watch a documentary or binge watch a comedy series? Okay, and then if so, name them. Okay, like and comment below. Brother Mo says she wasn't bred like that. I don't know. I think by proximity, she caught on to what was going on. Brother Mo is saying she wasn't developed or trained like that. Documentary or comedy series? And if so, which one? Just tell me which one. All right. Shout out to Isu. He says documentary. Yep. All right. Let's get it. We're going to get to that comedic science load in a second. Now, get this. In their time, okay, in Queen Tiye's time, Egypt was stable, it was prosperous, and deeply anchored in its religious traditions, especially the cult of Amun. They weren't playing like that, whose priesthood held enormous political sway and power. Tiye, by marriage and policy, maintained these traditional alignments. She was a queen of order, diplomacy, and divine legitimacy. Okay, and so then we have this. We have the old school, right? We have the old school. So if we can break this down, Queen Tiye, she represented the old school. Okay. Now we have Nefertiti. She's younger, mysterious, disruptive, and disrespectful. Shoot. She was the consort of Tiye's son, Akhenaten, originally Amenhotep the fourth. Amenhotep the fourth, a ruler destined to upend Egypt, uphold Egypt's spiritual foundation by establishing monotheistic worship of the Atenist. So he changed that, right? My bad. He changed that. So in the dramatic religious pivot, Nefertiti played not a supporting role, but a central one. Together, Akhenaten and Nefertiti became the embodiment of the solar divinity. Their very bodies forming the axis of new cosmology. Now, from the start, this position Nefertiti in stark opposition with the old guard. This caused some friction. This caused some problems. Okay? The old ways, whose power was rooted in the temples, priests, and ancestral rites like Amun, Ptah, and Osiris. But opposition was not merely institutional, this was personal. Yep, this was not just a formality or something symbolic. This was a personal thing. Man. And Queen Tiye represented its strongest face. She represented, just like Akhenaten, Nefertiti represented this new way. Queen Tiye was the face of the old ways. Brother Mo says Queen Tiye held it down with an iron fist. She was not playing, and a lot of people up here liking like documentaries. Okay, I do too, and yeah, Mo said he like comedy series and Living Color. Okay, that's what's up. But yeah, Queen Tiye, and man, there's some things that she tried to do. Because we know how our grandmothers are. All right. So we're going to get to that in a second. Now, historical records suggest that Tiye initially attempted to bridge the divide between tradition and reform. She tried. Okay. Tiye is known to have visited her son to the capital. She took road trips out there. She tried to fellowship with him and everything. Okay. But he wasn't going to be swayed. He wasn't going to be, his mind was fixed, right? And so her presence in letters and shrines there implied that she was involved, at least, initially in some of those changes. But as Akhenaten, as he got into his own, as reforms grew more radical and the temples of Amun was shut down, it's likely that Tiye's influence was done. Okay, he wasn't listening to her anymore. Okay, so Tiye, Queen Mother, she became the anchor to a past, and now this new regime is trying to change that. So this set the stage for a powerful interpersonal drama. Okay, Nefertiti, the revolutionary queen, seeking to embody this new order, this new divine order, and Tiye, as I mentioned before, she was the experienced matriarch, deeply invested in the ancestral traditions. Okay, we have this new way trying to break in where the old way is. Okay, so we have this clash. We have, I think, you know what I think? I think they were trying to say the same. They was trying to go in the same direction, but they were saying it differently. What do y'all think? Do y'all think that, because their ideas was very similar, their styles were very similar, but I guess they just for some reason couldn't come together. They couldn't agree. It was a power struggle. All right. Now, in the confines of the palace walls and temple halls, it wasn't just a generational conflict. This was a spiritual contest. I told you, this was more than physical or political or anything like that. This was a spiritual thing. Both queens commanded unique forms of authority. Here it is. Here's a comparison. Queen Tiye, the queen mother, whose wisdom and lineage connected her to Egypt's golden age, the old ways, right? And then Nefertiti, whose charisma and mystique projected this, the emerging theology of light. Though no texts openly record direct conflict between the two, their symbolic roles placed them in inevitable tension. There was some tension between those two. And I really believe that they both they were symbolically representing two different factions, and they were clashing at the same time. This is not priest versus priest here. These are two royal women, two royal orders going at it. And Kemet is the battleground. Okay. So Tiye, she was the son of yesterday. She was the son of yesterday, represented, revered, but setting. Her time is done. Her husband, unfortunately, is gone. That's cold-blooded. The son of yesterday. In other words, we love you, Queen Mother, but we can't. Nefertiti was now the rising solar disk, the rising sun. The setting sun, then the rising sun, dazzling, untested, and uncompromising. Yeah. Two different factions. Two different, yeah. And Brother Mo hit the nail on the head. That is a tough pill to swallow, especially when you, as Queen Tiye, you had all the power and all the influence. Now you gotta basically sit back. You can't do it anymore. Matter of fact, you may be the mother of the king, but you're not married to the king. Your king is gone. That's cold. Man, that's rough. But honestly, my heart is really it goes out to Queen Tiye. See what I'm saying? It goes out to her because she's in the middle of a transition. She's all, and we forget she's also, hold on, let me get out this screen. We forget she's grieving too. She's grieving too. Her husband is gone. Right? She has daughters for sure, but her man is gone, right? Yeah. It's rough. And yeah, Brother Isu says, yeah, always listen to your mom. Yeah, for sure, but I don't know. Akhenaten wasn't hearing all that. He wasn't trying to hear none of that. Think about it. Okay. The corridors, the course, all the incense was flowing and everything, shadows cast by limestone and whispers of loyalty and betrayal move like the sand. Now we have influence intermingled with that. Now we have spirituality intermingled with that. We have the old ways, or which one is it? The new ways, right? What are they going to do? Okay. And think about it. We have to understand that Queen Tiye was a grandmother. She was a grandmother. So he jumped the gun a little bit. Shout out to him. The grandmother. I'm sure she tried to reassert traditional balances by influencing her her grandchildren. Okay. Yes, she may have used restraint in one way, but I'm sure she tried to babysit a little bit. She tried to get the grandchildren and take them to Thebes. Okay. Art and inscriptions on Amarna are silent about that direct confrontation, but symbolic positioning speaks volumes, though. In depictions of Nefertiti, she's crowned in blue, but grandmother's, I'm sure, behind the scenes working her magic. Her family ties is deep. Her roots run deep. Her father, Yuya, was, though he wasn't royal, but he was connected to the royal court and the ancestors. Her daughter, Sitamun, once held the title Great Warrior Wife, and so on. So I'm sure Granny visited the grandchildren and told them about the ancestors, told them about Smenkhkare, told the children of the old ways, about the Kari Heb, about the priestly process, about the initiation process that they should be going through, but their mother want to act different. Yeah. I'm sure grandmother took the children by the hand and showed them how this is supposed to go, how Ma'at is supposed to be played out. Because we have grandparents, we have our loved ones that in one way or another they have their own way of showing us how this is done. My grandmother did it for me. Okay, she sat me down and told me told me about the family, went through photo albums and named names and all these things. So I'm sure Queen Tiye did the same thing for her grandchildren. So the Amarna court became a theological battleground, split not just by gender ideology, but by competing visions of Egypt's divine destiny, trying to save the soul of Egypt, right? Tiye represented continuity, a living vessel of Ma'at, the principle of cosmic order, upheld through tradition. Nefertiti channeled transformation, Ma'at reborn, through direct communion with the sun, no longer mediated by priests, but radiating through the royal body. Okay, so now Kemetic science. Here we go. yeah, here we go. Kemetic science. Now, from a Kemetic spiritual lens, okay, this rivalry mirrored the cosmic tension between chaos and order, between radical rebirth and ancestral memory. Yeah, this is what it was about. This I kind of was touching on it, but I'm going to lean into it now. Okay, you guys want to know a little bit about Kemetic science? Here it is. This is one of them. Okay, this is the balance between chaos and order, Ma'at and Isfet. It wasn't merely a political thing. This was metaphysical, right? Now, in mythic terms, Tiye and Nefertiti were like Sekhmet and Heteru. Did you hear what I said? Tiye and Nefertiti were like Sekhmet and Heteru, opposing expressions of the same divine femininity. I told you they was speaking the same thing, but they were doing it differently a little bit. One fierce with tradition, the other radiant with change. Yeah, they was representing the same thing, but it was on a different coin, right? Yeah. So in that, one of the more esoteric interpretations is from the House of Life, or the Par Ankh tradition. It frames this conflict in metaphysical terms or in symbolic terms. Tiye was the guardian of the ancestral Ka, the collective soul memory of Egypt. She was the representation of the ancient tradition, because as I mentioned many times before, the Kari Heb and the Insut Biti, the kings and queens of Kemet, went through the same similar process, and they underwent all those traditions. They learned all those things. So Queen Tiye was the guardian of this. She represented the collective soul memory of Egypt, and Nefertiti, as the emissary or newly descending light, was bringing in a solar dispensation, not yet fully integrated, not yet understood. Their rivalry then was not merely a clash, but a personality, but it was a clash of memory and prophecy. Now, some people will believe that the rift between Tiye and Nefertiti may have been played out through Akhenaten's shifting affections and policies. He went from his mother's house to now making his own with his wife. Tiye had been his guiding force from his youth all the way up, but Nefertiti became the radiant star of his new theology. This shift may have created tension not only between the queens, but between the son and his mother, between the past and the future, between blood and light, between Amun and Aten. Did you hear me? This tension, okay, was not just between the queens, but between the queen and his son, between the past and future, between blood and light, between Amun and Aten. So it's also possible that, and we talked about the death of the great father Amenhotep III. Widen this divide. I think the death of Amenhotep III sent everybody spiraling. I think Amenhotep III was the glue. I think the grandfather was the glue. I really think so. There are some people in our lives that impact us in such a way to where, you know what's happening. Everything changes when they're gone, right? So Amenhotep III was like that. Okay, some accounts suggest that Akhenaten maintained his father's divine identity, even deifying him alongside the Aten sometimes. And Tiye, Queen Mother, would have supported this elevation of her late husband, but Nefertiti wasn't trying to have all that. As the face of this new order, this new cosmic order may have been seen as a concession to the old ways. So even if, because there's been many times where the instability of the kings or the rulers of Egypt, they would build monuments or build some kind of shrine to their predecessor, respecting their ancestors and everything. But Nefertiti wasn't having that. That was kind of like, okay, you kind of switch the sides a little bit. Yeah, it's like that. When the matriarch is there for the longest time and then pass away, and the family changes. You are correct. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, it does happen, fam. It does. That's why it takes us all. It takes all of us to help each other and to encourage each other during those kind of times. But I think he was that guy. Okay, and so I think Akhenaten, if he tried to build a shrine for his father or tried to elevate him into that kind of status or write a few verses or whatever, sending him to the imperishable stars, Nefertiti, she would not have liked that. Even though by tradition in Kemet, that was the tradition. That was, according to the pyramid text, you was going to be sent to the imperishable stars, that kind of thing. So she was the face of this new order. So every ritual decision, every temple offering or whatever became a gesture of alliance or betrayal. So in one particularly revealing line in the tomb of the Amarna, it says, "She whom the sun has chosen shines brighter than all others." Now, do you think that by them saying that, they're saying she shines brighter than the sun in a sense, and Akhenaten is supposed to be the living sun? I think she's starting to overstep her bounds. I think she's really feeling herself. I really think that she's gotten to that point to where she's getting real comfortable, right? Where it says, "She whom the sun has chosen shines brighter than all others," including. So he said, including your husband. Granny warned him. You know what I'm saying? All right. So some interpret this as a reference to Nefertiti, but others suggest it could also reflect a rhetorical contest playing out in court. I don't know. I think somebody wrote that saying that she was better than all of them. So in time, Akhenaten's as Akhenaten's reign advanced, Tiye's presence fades from record. Whether she passed away peacefully or quietly sidelined, we don't know. What we do know is that after her disappearance from the scene, the Atenist extremists became more volatile. They got really active. And Nefertiti, once triumphant, also begins to vanish also. So even though these ideas were skyrocketing and going up and up and up, and everybody was in on it, the Queen Mother is gone, and later on, Nefertiti is gone. Okay, this is led by story of two queens. So we're left with echoes and impressions. Tiye, the queen mother, the matriarch of the old ways, the old Neteru, the ancestors. Nefertiti was the priestess of this new way. Their conflict was more than political, it was cosmic. Okay, it was metaphysical. And in its symbolic architecture, Egyptian temple design, one always moves from the outer courtyard to the inner sanctuaries. Yeah, we're going to get into that. Okay, we will get into a little bit of that architecture and everything, but it is seen, it goes from, get this, in those royal courts, in those Kemetic temples and so on, it moves from, it goes from the seen to the unseen, from public to the hidden. Okay, this rivalry mirrors that journey. Two powerful women at opposite ends of this sacred corridor, this sacred hall, both guarding secrets, both bearing light at the same time. Okay, so to understand that, we got to understand the family. We got to understand the family. Okay, so Queen Tiye was not passive. She was the chief advisor. She was a spiritual partner to her husband, and many believe she co-ruled during the latter years of his reign. Her origins as daughter and a powerful priestly lineage. Her origins as daughter to Yuya and Tuya, a powerful priestly lineage with links with Waset and Akhenaten. Okay, granted deep roots in Egypt's religious traditions. If Nefertiti was the face of the new order, then Tiye was the anchor of that old cosmic order. But the question is, what happens when two suns try to rise in the same sky? What happens? Okay, what happens? Is somebody saying something? Yeah, okay. All right. So within the Amarna court, Tiye and Nefertiti likely embodied competing cosmologies. Tiye represented Ma'at, okay, as it has been practicing for centuries, anchored in temples of Amun, Osiris, and Ptah. She respected, revered, and feared her. She was respected, she was revered, and beloved, right? Her influence was undiminished, even as when Akhenaten dismantled the old priesthood, she was still that physical representation. Nefertiti, by contrast, was a radiant flame of solar revolution, blazing with the new energy of the world. To her, the old Neteru were shadows of a higher truth that had to move on. Okay, that had to change. So, what happens when two suns try to rise? I think their interaction, while not recorded, this was a spiritual rivalry. May have also manifested through roles as queen mothers or royal matriarchs. Tiye, mother to the king, had long held the power. Nefertiti, bearing 6 daughters, had the children. Okay, this was a spiritual warfare. This was spiritual warfare played out in royal skin. Think about the court as a celestial court, not just an imperial or royal court. This thing was a celestial court with Nefertiti on one side as the Eye of Ra, unleashing transformative solar power, and Tiye, the goddess of Mut, the mother of kings, okay, upholder of divine order. The clash between these archetypes wasn't just personal, this was spiritual and cosmic. Some mystical traditions think they propose that Tiye acted as the guardian of the veil. Tiye, once again, we hear a lot of ancient traditions being played out through Queen Tiye. She wasn't just a queen, y'all. They're saying that she's the guardian of the veil, protecting the secrets of the older Neteru and the ancient ancestors, while Nefertiti tore that veil to let in some new light. Could this conflict, though, contributed to Nefertiti's eventual disappearance? Maybe. Okay, perhaps the court could not deal with both suns shining at the same time. Like, I'm sure the royal court, like, bro, why they're arguing again? These two queens, two world views, as Akhenaten weakened or withdrew. Okay, Akhenaten, some people believe that she started to get sick. Others due to spiritual isolation. Some would like to believe some of those he just stopped. Whether Tiye orchestrated Nefertiti's eclipse or simply outlasted her, we don't know. Okay, we don't know. In a court ruled by sacred image and divine persona, rival queens held the fate of the entire empire. But it's amazing how it goes from this large empire that lasts for 4,000 to 5,000 years to this one family. That's crazy. How all eyes go from this one nation to this one family. And in history it don't tell us who won, but it does show us even in the patriarchal empire, the fate of Egypt can hang in the balance of two extraordinary queens. Now, factions in the royal court. Now, to understand this issue, because it wasn't just spiritual problems. It wasn't just that. It was some political problems, right? To understand the turbulence of the Amarna period, we got to understand the political and spiritual factions swirling around Nefertiti and Akhenaten. We forgot it was still political, right? Egypt's elite priesthood, once centered in Waset around the cult of Amun, was now displaced. They was removed. They was dethroned by Atenism, right? This was not just a theological shift. This was a spiritual takeover. Akhenaten's elevation of the Aten created a power vacuum. Okay, everybody was trying to get this new power, get this new idea. One faction centered around Queen Tiye, the other around Akhenaten. Another faction emerged around King Ai. Another one behind military power. Nefertiti then stood between these currents. Was she the idealist? Was she the revolutionary? Or was she just a strategist? Okay, during this time, internal and external pressures mounted, plagues, economic shifts, and foreign threats. Because the foreigners were still there. I'm saying, y'all need to hear me. Okay, let me get up there. Let me hold on. Foreigners was at the gate. Queen Tiye saw it coming. Nefertiti brought company. And these foreigners were still there when King Tut was living. I'm saying to you, it was some external forces that was starting to come into Egypt and finesse the power structure. All right, so it got different. So during this time, external pressures mounted. Okay, some inscriptions hint that disputes among the royal children, court officials, a lot of them vanished. And so we'll deal with some of that. We're gonna get into some of those factions. Okay, really quick. The Atenist reformers, of course, we know Akhenaten's crew. Okay, and their inner circle. They closed old temples. They redirected offerings, which means the money that was going to the old ancestral temples was now going to the new ones. They formed new rituals centered on light and purity. Nefertiti probably led this. Okay. The royal traditionalists, those who were following the old ways, the ancient ancestors, Queen Tiye and Smenkhkare and many others, Tiye may have opposed Atenism quietly. He got active. Smenkhkare lodges remain a mystery. So we have the Atenist reformers on one side, the royal traditionalists, and the military. Okay, Heb and his generals was also on one side. They was between all of this. Okay, they was loyal to the old ways, but they were still connected to this king. Okay, just like when we watched the movie, we see the movie Black Panther, the Dora Milaje, they love King T'Challa, but they got Killmonger. Their loyalty is to the throne, not to the person. Okay, and then we got bureaucrats and diplomats disillusioned by neglect of foreign territory. The Amarna letters now talk about there's bureaucrats and there's people that are in the royal courts trying to finesse the system. Okay, by year 13, the pressure on Akhenaten's court was immense. Nefertiti may have become the true power behind all of this. She was just sitting back chilling, especially if Akhenaten became ill, because Queen Tiye is no longer the queen, right? So let's get to it. The vanishing, disappearance, or deification. I told you a lot of this is more than just physical, right? This story concerning Nefertiti, as we're looking at it, as we're paying attention to it or kind of examining it, it's something about that. Okay, there's a lot of symbolism that's behind her reign, especially towards the end of her life. So then around year 12 of Akhenaten's reign, Nefertiti, she disappears. Okay, she disappears. Some scholars argue she died, possibly from a plague or illness. Others suggest a far more mysterious transformation. It may have been cloaked in mystery or political secrecy. Okay, here's the problem. Okay, all right. So around the same time Nefertiti vanishes, a figure named Smenkhkare appears. Okay, Smenkhkare appears, briefly co-ruling with Akhenaten or succeeding him directly. Some propose that Smenkhkare was Nefertiti in another form, ruling under a male regional name. This theory aligns with Egyptian tradition where women like Hatshepsut, because brother, shout out to Brother Joe, Brother Ferguson, he asked about why Hatshepsut portrayed herself in masculine form. Okay, this may go even further where she just changed her name when Nefertiti changed her name altogether, and she still ruled. Okay, in her place, we have a figure named Smenkhkare, or we have another person named Neferneferuaten takes power. Scholars believe this was Nefertiti under a new throne name. Here's the evidence: feminine endings with the name, feminine endings in kingly titles, decrees signed with phrases like the effective for her husband. Okay, the Shem or Cartouche pairing her name with Akhenaten. So a lot of people would like to believe that when King Akhenaten transitioned, Nefertiti still took over, but under a new name. Okay, so that's what that is. Was she Egypt's next pharaoh, though? Or was she replaced or challenged by Smenkhkare, a real person? Okay, we have this mysterious code double identity masking one final bid to hold Egypt together. Because unfortunately, by the time King Tut ascends to the throne, Nefertiti is gone, Akhenaten is gone, and his grandmother is gone. Okay, so by the time King Tut came on the scene, Nefertiti's statues are gone, shattered. Her name is erased. The city of Akhenaten is abandoned. The priests of Amun and the military elite have returned. The Neteru of the old ways have been restored. And Nefertiti, once the shining living image, vanishes into the Akhet or into the horizon. But why? But why was that? Why did that happen? Why was that? But was that necessary? Okay, it may have been a strategic move to stabilize the regime. Okay, it may have been that. Okay, because now we have King Tut coming in, so we now have this possibility of a ritual rebirth, right? And transitioning Nefertiti into the Solar King form is capable of holding a cosmic balance now. So they're able to say, okay, get this. We have King Tut. We may have the possibility or the ability to reset this whole thing. Okay, so in the Hermopolitan and Heliopolitan tradition, transformation was the path to immortality. So by Nefertiti disappearing, she may have went into a different form, not just in name, but just altogether. Neteru, like Asar, underwent the symbolic death and rebirth. Now, if Nefertiti disappears, she may not have died, but crossed the threshold, becoming a divine form. As I mentioned before, that she may have been a symbolic representation or manifestation of what they was reading. And her name was the beautiful one has come, right? We don't know where she came from technically. She may have just landed there. She may just appear, manifested, right? And so Um, but when that time is done, she may have took on that divine form hidden from the uninitiated. Her disappearance then isn't an erasure. It may have been an initiation. We mentioned that Smenkhkare did a similar process where she decided to go ahead and go into that chamber of ashes. This is the second time I'm hearing about queens and royalty undergoing an initiation to transform and move on into something else. This is the second time. I don't know. This may be a thing, right? So her disappearance then isn't just an erasure, but initiation. And maybe that's why no tomb has been found. That's why it may be a reason why no tomb has been found. Okay. Her spiritual significance requires secrecy, like the hidden one, the moon. Okay. When the sun sets, you cannot see it anymore. It is now in the ancestral realm, in the duat. She becomes more powerful, unseen. Okay. So, ironically, it's in her destruction that she becomes immortal. Okay. In 1912, the famous painted bust of Nefertiti was found. I still like to think that thing is fake. That famous picture of Nefertiti with the crown, I think it is fake, but it is what it is, right? And so, but even that bust is part of the mystery. Was it a prototype, a ritual object, or the final attempt to preserve her beauty beyond time? So far, so good, right? Modern forensics show traces of age lines and corrections under the surface, suggesting the public image was idealized, but the woman was real. Okay, real and possibly the first woman to rule as Pharaoh after Hatshepsut, real and nearly forgotten by the world she helped transform. The bust of Nefertiti, now housed in Berlin, is one of the most iconic images in world art. But what does it really mean, though? Is it really her for real? In Kemetic science and Kemetic metaphysics, a statue is not just a likeness of a person. It is a receptacle. It is a receptacle for the Ka. That's why names are important. Names have power, and even images have power. Okay, so when you have a statue or we have an image of the ancestors or whatever, that is a place where the Ka can go, according to Kemetic science or Kemetic knowledge. Okay, so the perfection of Nefertiti's bust with this symmetry, serenity, and subtle gaze signals more than artistry. This is a pneumatic gate. It may have been a gate designed to hold and transmit her divine pattern. Maybe. The proportions of that image, that statue, match harmonic ratios found in sacred geometry, echoing the geometry of temples, even in the human body as microcosm. Her single missing eye. It may not be an accident. Okay. Some suggest it was intentional, a reminder of the eye of Ra. Yeah. Not an ancient, okay, not an accident. Some suggest it is intentional, okay, which can be both protective and wrathful. Or perhaps she sees with the inner eye the what yet, okay, what yet, perceiving realms beyond the visible, the hidden, okay. The temple is just like those in Daniel Abydos. We find references to the hidden lady of light, the solar priestess whose name is erased, but whose function endures. Name may be erased, but the actions are still there. Many believe that there are echoes. These are echoes of Nefertiti, preserved in allegory, veiled in symbolism, long after her physical frame is gone. Okay, her legacy is just historical, is mystical. So now we have one more thing: eternal return, the afterlife of Nefertiti, the Kemetic science symbolism. So I got a double shot. I'll give y'all a double shot of the Kemetic science real quick. Let me see. The fam is talking. Yeah. Some of these things, some of the missionaries did do that to us, unfortunately. Yes. the spiritual connection was lost. I really believe that that disconnection between Queen Tiye, Queen Mother, and Nefertiti, that spiritual connection was lost. Now I think Ramses II tried to reset it, but that flow, it was gone. Yeah, the eyebrow, because on the I don't think I have a straightforward picture of Nefertiti's of her statue, but yeah, one of those eyes is missing. Was it symbolic? Y'all let me know. Okay, so here we go. A little bit of comedic science. Y'all asked for it. We're gonna get some more of that. All right, the eternal return, the afterlife of Nefertiti. Yeah. So the Zep Tepi. Yeah, we gotta shift our gaze from say from monuments and myth and go beyond that. Okay. When we think about Nefertiti, we think about just the statues or her picture or the things that we see on the wall in the Amarna period and her husband. But she's a symbol. She's also a spirit and the science of eternal return. So in the Kemetic worldview, the ancient spiritual system in Kemet, time is not linear. It's cyclical, regenerative like the now. And the soul or the body is not just lost in the past. It returns, it reanimates, it renews itself, not just in identical form, but in function and essence. So the Zep Tepi, the first time, a moment not fixed in time or in the past, but is reborn in ritual and kingship, in cosmic memory. And this is where Nefertiti resides. Okay, it's not just in history, but in sacred science and becoming again and renewing itself again. So, what do some scholars would believe that she assumed a solar role, stepping into Aten's light, okay, as a divine sovereign in her own right. Others trace her disappearance to political backlash, but in the Kemetic tradition, disappearance is not absent; it is transformation. So, what do we really know about her? What do we know about her? Okay, what do we know about her fate? Historians speculate: did she die young? Did she ascend to the throne? What happened to her? Some scholars believe that she assumed that solar role, but to the ancient priests, the unseen is more powerful than the seen. Just like in Star Wars, when Obi-Wan Kenobi told Darth Vader, said, "You strike me down, I'd be more powerful than you ever imagined." See what I'm saying? So what did she become? Her name is the beautiful one. The beautiful one has come. But what if this coming was not just once, but cyclical? I told you she may have been a symbolic representation of an idea. Okay, just like Smenkhkare manifested. Here comes Nefertiti manifesting. Okay, so a pattern of repeating through archetypes. What if Nefertiti was not just a figure, but a code? Like the Matrix. What if she was that code? In Kemetic symbolism, her crown resembles the pillar or obelisk or the jed. Talked about the jed. It's not just an adornment, it's architecture. It evokes power. Sacred spinal column of Osiris symbolizing resurrection, balance, and divine memory. And just like the jed, Nefertiti stands upright through time. And there it is. I'm sorry, y'all. We do have a picture. We do have an image of Nefertiti with one eye missing, probably on purpose. What did she become? Okay. So let's think about her name. Her statue is housed in the Berlin Museum. It should be in Africa, and it's placed inside a room known as the North Dome, which is a dome ceiling, gold, and has golden light, and temple-like geometry. It becomes a modern shrine, perhaps unintentionally, or perhaps guided by memory of those who came before. In Kemet, in Africa, memory is not just recall, but it is a function, it is a purpose and activation. So if you're doing things, you don't even remember, you don't know why you're doing it, but you're doing it well, it may be a recall from the ancestors. Okay? Could our image sitting at the crossroads of history and fascination serve as a deeper role, like an anchor for this current, for this symbolic current? So it may be a reminder of not just the past, but of a living principle. Okay, the ancients or the ancestors would say she returns not to the throne, but to the consciousness of those who remember. So each generation, whenever they call her name, is basically recharging her, resetting this thing. It is a eternal return, not just a reincarnation, but a reconsecration. And now we gotta think about the afterlife, not just a speculation, but law. Okay, because the pyramid text said this: I go forth by day, I return by night, I become the lotus, I ascend in light. This was the science of eternity. Okay, the queens, the Neteru, and the Sematawi, the Nebatawi, okay, were not mourned as gone. They were initiated into another realm of influence. Okay, so let's not forget her name includes Aten, okay, and it also includes the family. Okay, so perfect. Her name Neferneferuaten, perfect, are the beauties of the Atenist. She was not merely a consort; she was a vessel. Okay, and today, so in our time, regardless of what's going on, we can't see her again. We can't see her in images and things like that, not only in museums but in murals, meditations, and movements. So in art, in travels and everything. So what did she become? Okay, she became light. Okay, she became light. Nefertiti is remembered mostly by her sculptures, but she is now in so many words an alignment of Ma'at, cosmic truth. Nefertiti's journey from beauty to priestess, from queen to oracle, from seen to unseen, mirrors the soul's journey in ancient Kemet. I think so. I really think so. I think her whole life is as it's played out represents that journey to the imperishable stars or becoming an imperishable star. Okay, and perhaps that's the real mystery, not just what happened to her, but what did she become? Okay, you see what I'm saying? So before I get into that, this is King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Get this, we're gonna do this roll call real quick though, because I got a surprise for you. Got a surprise. All right, let me see. Who in here? All right, got a roll call. One Voice Africa. Shout out to the fam. All right, Solo Mom. Okay, Solo Mom, Food and Vlogs, G-Man 77. These people either added value to the discussion, or they just joined the fam. What's going on? Quest, Queens of Kings, Empress, Brother Mo, Brother Joseph Ferguson, Brother Rashad Davis. What's going on? You know, Ancient Divinations, Adrian Rice, Library Without Borders. I haven't forgot about you. I haven't forgot because she did ask it. She made a humble request. And we're going to try our best to answer. She wants to know the connection between the Congo and Kemet. Yep, I haven't forgot about that one. All right. Peggy Harrison, Miss Blue, Indigo Prince, Makudiro Ankara, Kiara Haynes, DFW African American Museum. Shout out to Brother Elliot Grant. He is trying to get me plugged in with the African American Museum in Dallas, and we may do some work out there. We may get down. Jay Williams, Mark Carroll, and Nudi Davila, General Bunches, Comedic Nation, Clark Nation Supreme, Didi, and Zep Teppy Slim. If you're still present and I didn't call your name, comment here. Yeah, what's going on? Now, let me see what the fans say. Yeah, most of our ancient relics are not in Africa. That is sad. Yeah, these people, and there's been many stories about that, about people becoming light, okay, or emanating light, right? Yeah, and Brother he did say here, he said the whole team is here. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm about to talk about that in a minute, but it's been something. I've been trying to get back on track because the last few weeks of school, it's something else. But I got a surprise. Now, our book, the first female pharaoh, we got a couple more sections and we're done with that. the first female pharaoh, Smenkhkare, goddess of the seven stars. The link is in the description. And yeah, we have took a wonderful journey learning about a very unknown figure, but she has been very impactful. Okay, that's the book. And coming up, all right. So coming up, we got this summer. We'll be talking about the Ethiopians. Okay, we're going to talk about Ethiopia, and we got a summer series coming up dealing with Ethiopia. So the books that I suggest is Ethiopians: A History by Richard Pankhurst, the Ethiopians of History, and Kebra Nagast, the Queen of Sheba, and her only son Menelik by E.A. Wallace Budge. And here's some books, some other books. If you want to get into Kemetic Science, Sacred Science by R.A. Schwaller de Lubris, and Temple in Man. But yeah, this summer we will be going into Ethiopia, all right? Because a lot of people have been asking about that, and we're going to get into that. And speaking of that, that is a series, Ethiopia, the Pillar of African Civilization. It won't be coming this fall. It will happen this summer. Okay. Speaking of that, yeah. Speaking of Ethiopia, speaking of East Africa, your boy wrote a book. Yep. Sure did. I published my very first book, y'all. This book was it was written many years ago. I just had the courage and bravery enough to put it into print. So yes, this is my very first book, The Crusades and Jihad in East Africa, Religious Conflicts and Their Impact, by yours truly. My very first book. And it talks about a lot of people. When we think about the Crusades, we think about Europe, right? Or when we think about medieval Africa, we think about Timbuktu. But we totally reject or neglect what was going on in Sudan and Ethiopia. Yeah. So that is my first book, and I was working on it while I was at Paul Queen College in Dallas. And so, yeah, the link is in the description, and I will put that in the pinned comments. Get you one, because we will host a mini series about that. Yeah. The first of many. Man, I'm tired. Man, the first of many. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna work on that. Yeah, congratulations. Thank you very much. Now, but before I turn you loose, okay. If you like the content, subscribe and share it with somebody that may enjoy it, and share it on Reddit or on Facebook. Okay, so if you enjoy that, share it on. Oh, I forgot about that. Share it on Reddit or Facebook. Now, Temples of Fire and Thrones of Light. Yeah, we're gonna get into ancient Nubia, and that's coming up in June. I haven't forgot about that. That's still in the mix. I just kind of got behind on some things, and just the end of the school year, so I had to do teacher stuff. But yeah, and Primordial Goddess, we're gonna deal with Net. So this summer, for those who are interested, this summer we are going to be dealing with Ethiopia a little bit more. We'll be dealing with ancient Sudan and its connection to Kemet a little bit more. What I've learned and noticed is that a lot of people enjoy those discussions concerning Ethiopia and Sudan. Yeah, Kemet is cool, but a lot of people want to know about what's further south. Okay, so we're going to get into that. And yeah, so this is going to kick off this summer. And you guys asked more, y'all wanted to know more about Kemetic science. We're going to deal with that also. What I also learned is that there's some people that they would make strong suggestions. They would suggest that I do something else, like make that connection, religious connection or theological connection between the big three, like Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, and connected to Kemet. That's played. That's been done many times, right? Now, not to say that we won't touch on it, but this is not what this podcast is about. Okay, this podcast is about African history, more specifically Ethiopia, Sudan, and Kemet. So I know some people will say, okay, what about Yoruba? There are podcasts for that. You see what I'm saying? My heart is in Ethiopia and Sudan and Kemet, more specifically Ethiopia. So But I appreciate the suggestions. I do appreciate that. But but we have plenty of shows and plenty of channels that spend a lot of their time doing that. Okay, but that's not what we're gonna do. But before we go, are there any questions before I turn you loose? Because I really appreciate you guys coming on this good old Memorial Day weekend. I may do another one, do another live sometime next week. And speaking of that, some of my videos, I may do clips or reviews. Okay, so we would try to do a new video once a week. We will do a live once a week, and we may do a recap. So you may see 1 to 2 good videos, and that's it. I don't want to get on your nerves too much, but I want to make sure that we are learning. And so the best way to learn is to be intentional with the process, right? So, but are there any questions or concerns before I turn you loose? Any questions, concerns, anything else? But I really the question is, what do you think about the book, The Law of the Kings, an old Ethiopian book? I don't know, honestly. but I'm gonna mess around and find out. Yeah, I can't say I know everything, right? This is new. The Law of the Kings, or the capital. I know the capital Nagast is the glory of the kings. I think the Law of the Kings is something different. Okay, but I will look into it. I will look into that. Because shoot, we all learn it together, right? And that's something. Now you got me wondering. I wanna check that out. So yeah, we're gonna get into Ethiopia, and for Brother Martin, Brother Mo in the back, and for everybody else in the back, the Ark of the Covenant did come up, because I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna tell you this though. All right, let me go back to this. Right here. What had happened was, really quick, the East Africa was caught in between, right? East Africa was caught in between during the Crusades. We had Egypt on one side, and we had the Europeans on the other. Egypt was trying to come through and push their way through Sudan. Meanwhile, the Europeans was coming around looking for this cat named Prester John. Bro, Prester John ain't from here. Okay, you got the Ark of the Covenant? That is none of your business. Yes, sir. So yeah, it was East Africa. They got involved one way or the other. They was involved, and it wasn't a lot of battles, say, in Jerusalem, but it was some battles conducted in Africa with those two groups. Yeah. Can't wait to hear more. Yeah, we're gonna get into it, because I plan on next August or September doing a mini series on it. Okay, so, and we're planning on a book signing. We're gonna get active. We're gonna get outside. I do not like going outside, but Brother Grant, he encouraged me to go outside and touch some grass. So we are going to host a discussion. And I forgot. Get this. I did reach out to my beloved alma mater, Paul Quinn College, and we may host a book talk next fall with my book. We're going to do that at the library. Yeah, we're going to have that. We're going to host a live discussion at Paul Quinn. And shout out to Pan African. We're going to try to get out there too. Yeah, shout out to Pan African Connection, Mama Kwete. Yeah, King Solomon, Queen of Sheba, and more. Yep. Yeah. Since we own it, might as well go and deal with it, right? Yeah, and the thing is, we can't dance around that too long. See what I'm saying? We can't just hyper focus on one side and ignore everything else. This is not what history is about. If it's there, I'm gonna talk about it, right? And so we're gonna touch on it. We're gonna touch on King Solomon, Queen of Sheba, the Ark of the Covenant, and many other kings that was along those lines. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, I can't wait. It's an interesting journey, because Shout out to Mr. Gales. He said nobody really talks about this side of Africa. I didn't know that. I just thought it was a great idea. All right. So, but yeah, so the book is out. It is on Amazon, and I will put the link will be in the pinned comment. Get you one. And if you ever see me, if I'm ever outside, I will sign it. I will autograph it. But we are going to have a discussion about it. We are going to break it down. I'm a teacher. And speaking of that, school is over. School is done. You understand me? I'm tired. It's over with. Yep. Yeah. Shout out to Isu. He's saying 570 common era, the era of the elephant. Ethiopia invaded Saudi. Yeah, they sure did. But they ain't in there. But yeah, we're gonna touch on that. We're gonna talk about that. The fam has really gave some great responses. They've been responding with whenever I do something about Ethiopia or Sudan, it takes off. And I think more people want to hear about that. And yeah, Kemet is cool and everything, but what was going on before that? Or what was going on in other eras, in other times, in other decades? And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that. So, yeah, so this summer we will deal with Ethiopia as our pillar, okay? Pillar of African civilization. And then we're going to deal with, of course, the book series. And in the fall, we got a few more things. So, if there are no other questions, thank you for coming. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And I really appreciate you guys. And listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Don't forget to get the book, Ujumbe Means Message. And we talked about the Vanishing Queen. We talked about Queen Nefertiti. And I will talk to you later.